Mine. Yours.
Excuse me.
The peanut butter and jelly are not together. The peanut butter and the jelly are separate.
Exactly. And again, I just want to kind of emphasize this part right here. So, and since the movie studio is additive, it would allow Netflix to be a true player in the theatrical space. Insiders with knowledge of the deal say that Netflix will still do its own movies. Okay, Netflix will do its own movies while Warner Brothers would make its own separate slate. Okay, this is what people need to realize. Netflix, the streamer, and Warner Brothers Studios were going to run separately under the Netflix parent company umbrella. There's essentially two Netflix entities here. There's the overall parent company, and there's the streamer who's making profit for the parent company. Okay? So you got your peanut butter and you got your jelly, both under the bread of the Netflix parent company. Ted Sarandos did not lie. Dan Lin's statement does not contradict that. Dan Lin was going to still do his own thing with Netflix, he's the Netflix film chief, while Warner Brothers, presumably Pam Abdi and Mike DeLuca, who got their contracts extended, were going to do the theatrical slate that Netflix was still going to honor. This is what people are not understanding. They looked at Dan Lin's headline, they misremembered what Ted Sarandos' plan actually was, what was actually said, and you're like, oh, Ted Sarandos lied. No. TheCurlyRay. Who is getting Warner Brothers right now?
Well, from what it looks like, the Paramount deal may not go through. So honestly, I don't even know at this point.
But like, as it stands right now, okay, we'll talk about the Paramount deal, about the status of that. But as it stands right now, who is getting Warner Brothers?
Paramount.
Exactly. And did Netflix buy some other theatrical studio arm?
Not yet.
Interesting. So, exactly. Netflix doesn't have the jelly you want for the peanut butter. So Dan Lin's statement did not change at all, right? I mean, here's another analogy. Warner Brothers Discovery. You got Warner Brothers Pictures with Pam Abdi and Mike DeLuca, and you got DC Studios with Gunny Poo and Safran. Their jobs are completely separate. They run their own ship separately, both making their own profit for David Zaslav at Warner Brothers Discovery. But other than being under the same parent company, they are separate, just like the streamer Netflix and Warner Brothers Pictures. They were going to be separate. TheCurlyRay, what's your thoughts on all this?
Yeah, man. Netflix is investing in theaters, and they've been investing in the IMAX. And hey, if Paramount and WBD merger doesn't work out, if it doesn't go through, hey, Netflix will just come back and just buy all Warner Brothers.
Exactly. But based on all this, would you say that Dan Lin's statement contradicts what Ted Sarandos said?
I mean, from what we're reading, man, because Ted Sarandos was like, hey, we're promising a 45-day window and theatrical releases for all the WBD movies, and that they would run as separate and running like normal, because like what Ted Sarandos said, if they buy Warner Brothers, they're buying themselves into that position in theatrical releases, in the theatrical business.
Yes, but you have all these bots, all these Paramount shills, all these people who just hate Netflix, just taking the headline of what Dan Lin said and taking the headline of what Sarandos said and just running with it, being like, oh, Ted Sarandos lied. And this is when I did what I call my sober drunk tweeting. What I mean by that, I tweet like I'm drunk, even though I'm completely sober, because I was just that upset that people were constantly running with these headlines and not doing actual analyzing, actual critical thinking. Let's talk critical thinking for a second, okay? Dan Lin is the Netflix film chief for the streamer. Ted Sarandos is the head of the company overall. Warner Brothers Pictures was going to be separate.
Yeah, man. Netflix buying Warner Brothers and keeping it as a separate company is like if I'm someone who collects a lot of Lego sets. The way that these aunties are imaging it is would be if I were to put the Millennium Falcon in the Batcave. But instead of putting the Millennium Falcon in all my Lego Star Wars sets, I would separate them into another section where all the other Lego Star Wars stuff's at. So I could play with my Lego Star Wars on this part of the shelf, and I could play with my Lego DC figures on this side of the shelf. So you're keeping everything separate.
Do these shelves have anything to do with each other other than being in the same house?
Nope.
And also Justice for Fives, since you brought up Star Wars, just want to say another Justice for Fives. Since people love headlines so much, Netflix to keep Warner Brothers movies in theaters for a 45-day window. Okay? Warner Brothers movies in theaters for a 45-day window. Okay? Curly Ray, where do you see the word all in this headline? Since people love headlines so much, tell me where you see all of Netflix movies in theaters. All movies under the Netflix parent company in theaters. Tell me where you see that.
Let's take a look. Let's take a look here. So let me get my little glasses on real quick, and let me just look real quick. Okay, we got this, and this, and that here. We got this, and that. We got this, and that. And no, I don't see the word all in this headline at all.
Interesting. So, and again, I don't normally like to go on just headlines, but I've definitely covered the articles themselves, so I just want to discuss the headline. Even if you were going on headlines alone, just doing headlines alone, and ooh, nice.
Yeah, man. Shout out to Rebel Moon Tales. I would love to see those, by the way, because I've been wanting to see some more Lego Rebel Moon custom sets.
And now let's look at this headline. Again, let's just go off the headlines alone, because I really want to break this down, because people don't have time to read articles. They want to go off headlines. And normally you could even, but honestly, even if you're looking at the headlines, that's not even an excuse if you just look at headlines. Because Netflix film chief says streamer. Okay, Netflix film chief says streamer has accepted it won't work with directors who want theatrical releases. Okay, the streamer has accepted. So streamer is accepting this, but is the streamer Warner Brothers?
No, it's Netflix.
Interesting. So I want to make this abundantly clear. Nothing has changed with Ted Sarandos' viewpoint. What has changed is that Netflix is not getting their theatrical arm as it stands right now. So the streamer's business model is remaining the same. In fact, the streamer's business model would have still remained the same, because Netflix, the streamer, was going to be run separately from Warner Brothers Pictures. Separate entities under the same umbrella. Now the sandwich is just peanut butter, guys, okay? Netflix is the peanut butter in this analogy. So now the only thing that has changed is this sandwich is now peanut butter and not peanut butter and jelly, okay? They're not going to have the jelly flavor, but peanut butter is still the same, okay? The peanut butter is still the same, and it was always going to be the same. The jelly was just going to give the overall sandwich a different flavor, but the peanut butter's flavor itself was not going to change. Just like with Netflix, the streamer, their business model was not going to change for the overall parent company, whereas Warner Brothers was going to essentially make the change for the overall parent company. But they're not having that jelly anymore, so we're just getting the peanut butter sandwich. But the peanut butter was never going to change, okay? The overall sandwich is changing because we're not getting Warner Brothers anymore. Their jelly, they're not getting their jelly.
They're not getting they're not getting their peanut butter jelly time.
I don't know if that rap is trademarked, so let's be... But I do have a confession to make. In real life, I actually don't like PB&J. It's a texture thing. Yeah, it's a texture thing for me.
So you don't like peanut butter and jelly. So you don't like the peanut butter you put on bread, and then you don't like the peanut or the jelly you put on bread, and you don't like when you put them together and then you eat them like that.
Correct. I don't even like peanut butter sandwiches. I don't like jelly sandwiches. It's just a texture thing for me.
Is it because of the jellyfish from SpongeBob?
No. But still, I love the analogy. It's a perfect analogy. It just shows that people were so quick to just read a headline. But if you look at what was actually said by Ted Sarandos and what's actually being said right now by Dan Lin, nothing is being contradicted here. Nothing. Even if you go off the headlines, some of these headlines, nothing's being contradicted. And I hate going off just headlines, but even going off just headlines. I'm sorry, I'm going on a rant right now, but I think we... Yes, guys, I know. But is there anything else you want to say, Curly Ray?
Like Ted Sarandos said, or the head of Netflix, the more Zack Snyder, the better.
Yep. But I think it's safe to say, too, that if Netflix gets Warner Brothers again, I think it's safe to say that they would do theatrical for the Warner Brothers movies. In fact, here's another point I want to bring up. Remember how we said, and we were doing that, how this would affect Rebel Moon if Netflix gets Warner Brothers? Remember how I suggested and you agreed that we could get the studio cuts under Warner Brothers, under the Warner Brothers banner? Why did I say that, Curly Ray? Why did I say that?
Because those versions would be the PG-13 versions for the families to go.
But why under Warner Brothers specifically? Why not just keep it under the Netflix streamer umbrella? Why not just keep it in the peanut butter? Why are we putting it in the jelly?
Because we're keeping it in the theaters.
Interesting. So even then, I was saying, we were both saying that Warner Brothers, the theatrical studio, and Netflix, the streamer, were going to be separate under the Netflix parent company umbrella. So nothing has changed. And now we're getting all to these sandwich analogies. Okay, but yeah, thank you, Curly Ray, for that peanut butter and jelly analogy, because that really emphasizes the point really well. So
You may not like peanut butter jelly, but I'll say one thing. A PB&J can't top a Krabby Patty from the Krusty Krab.
what up, Leon? I take it you just saw He-Man. So just so you know, you and Sky are welcome to use our peanut butter and jelly analogy. Long story short, Netflix, the streamer, is the peanut butter, Warner Brothers is the jelly, and the PB&J, the overall sandwich, is the Netflix parent company. Credit to Curly Ray for the analogy. Well, still, thank you for stopping by and drive safe. But I think we beat this point to death now. I think it's safe to say, let's read what people are actually saying. Let's read what these articles are really saying before we just run our mouths on Twitter. Okay? Well, I mean, the funny thing is, even if you run with titles, that's not even enough. Netflix film chief says streamer has accepted it won't work with directors. And let's go on to this title that says Netflix to keep Warner Brothers movies in theaters. So, read, critical thinking,